From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay, major Washington reports now on delay as leaders in Washington work to restart the government. The U.S. and China meeting face-to-face for the first time since December.
So the pressure's on both these gentlemen to cut the deal.
Machinery Pete has a price update on grain handling equipment, and Southern farmers looking for a price premium for a seafood favorite.
AgDay, presented by the all-new Chevy Silverado, the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Several of the biggest crop production reports of the year are now delayed due to the government shutdown. As expected, USDA announcing Friday that its crop production report, World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimates, or WASDE, and winter wheat seedings will not be released this week as expected. USDA says a lapse in federal funding and the time required to analyze and compile the information mean the reports won't be ready. And even if funding is restored, the chief economist, Robert Johansson, saying there isn't enough time to hit the current schedule. Johansson says once funding is restored, then a new report schedule can be made. On Friday, congressional leaders met at the White House to discuss the current funding standoff.
So the January report is looked at as the most volatile. It's looked at as probably the most dangerous. You have to be ready for A, the volatility, and this has already been a volatile report going forward, so it's only got the ramifications of being more volatile than it was. And then B, you're going to have to worry about, always have China and the strong dollar in the rear view and see how we get these numbers, at least the U.S. numbers, mesh with what's happening geopolitically.
With Congress back on the job in Washington, the Democratic-controlled House is already rolling out votes and fresh agenda items. Newly elected Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, quickly announcing her top priorities for the 116th Congress. She says the House agenda will focus on green energy, including renewable fuels, gun safety, and health care. From an agricultural perspective, Washington watchers say expect plenty of oversight of the implementation of the new farm bill and hearings regarding the ag economy and trade. An ag champion in the Senate is deciding to retire. Senate Ag Committee Chairman Pat Roberts says he won't run for re-election in 2020. With his wife by his side, the 82-year-old senator from Kansas announcing his decision at a news conference in Manhattan, Kansas on Friday. Roberts served 5 terms in the Senate and became a congressman back in 1981, marking Kansas' longest-serving member of Congress. He has a perfect score in elections, winning 24 and losing none. His resume in agriculture is long, topped off by being the ringleader in getting that 2018 Farm Bill passed last year. Also this week, trade negotiations between the U.S. and China are set to resume in Beijing. Global stocks surging Friday on news of fresh talks and the Labor Department's new jobs numbers, adding 312,000 jobs in December, much stronger than experts anticipated. The 2-day meeting in Beijing this week will mark the first face-to-face between the two countries since the trade truce was struck back in December. Now, at that time, China agreed to start buying U.S. products in exchange for the U.S. not raising tariffs on Chinese goods. That agreement included U.S. ag products like soybeans. Allendale's Jim McCormick says China is buying beans, but more buys will be needed to give the soybean market more life.
Part of the market rally the last couple of weeks has been because China has come in and bought beans. The thought is at least up to 5 million metric tons. That was kind of the deal that Trump and Xi made with each other back in the beginning of December to kind of kickstart these. So we need to see some progress. I mean, I'm optimistic. The stock market's definitely taking a turn for the worse here in the United States. Their economy is definitely kind of contracting a little bit. So the pressure's on both these gentlemen to cut the deal. And that's kind of what we need. I think you need both guys to feel the heat a little bit to get this deal cut, and I think it'll be great for American agriculture if a deal is done.
The Chinese economy adding pressure to these talks. The Wall Street Journal reports consumers in the world's second largest economy are spending less on discretionary goods and big-ticket items as costs for basic necessities rise. Economic advisors say, like Apple, a lot of U.S. companies that do business in China are likely to report lower earnings this season due to these trade tensions.
Yes, the Chinese economy is slowing, and one of the reasons why markets are responding the way they are is that people are downgrading their earnings forecast for folks who have a lot of business in China. And so make no mistake, the Chinese economy is on a path that we haven't seen in decades. And that's something that will affect companies that operate in China. But the upside is that, remember, the Council of Economic Advisors, we estimated last year that China was stealing about $500 billion a year of our intellectual property. And we've got them to the table now, and we can actually make some serious serious progress on that. And so there's a lot of room for, positive gain in the Chinese negotiations. And I think the fact that their economy is having trouble right now shows that our policies have been effective at getting to the table.
Deputy U.S. Trade Representative Jeffrey Garish will lead the American delegation. That includes Treasury Undersecretary for International Affairs David Malpass and USDA Undersecretary Ted McKinney. U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer is expected to meet with Chinese President Xi's top economic advisor later this month. A major trade deal was ratified last week, but it does not include the United States. The updated Trans-Pacific Partnership, known as the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, or CPTPP, it was ratified by 11 countries. The deal is supposed to slash tariffs and open up trade for those countries, with a second round of tariff cuts expected to potentially happen in April. Now, Japan is part of that agreement, and while the U.S. is currently in bilateral negotiations with Japan, the U.S. beef industry wants to see a deal happen soon.
And we hope to be able to continue moving forward with talks on trade with Japan and also with the United Kingdom.
While some producers wait on the outcome, others in the pork industry worry trade relationships with CPTPP countries are hurt already.
One thing about this industry, we're very, very dependent on exports. 25% of our product is exported, so we need all the access to markets that we can get. And so hopefully we can get these two markets open back up fully.
Farmers for Free Trade responding to the news, saying this marks the beginning of an era of lost opportunities as farmers sit on the sidelines. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman joining us today with a look at our farm country weather and, of course, crop comments. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Clinton. Well, check this out. Soybeans, yes, these are soybeans, still standing in the field. Now, this is during the new year. A farmer snapped and sent us this photo from Ogle County, Illinois. He says, "I can't beat the free storage." Definitely not something you like to see, though, in January. Now, taking a look at the drought monitor, obviously this is not a big issue. In fact, most areas east of the Rockies are wet more often than dry, but the dry areas continue in our western states. We'll have your forecast coming up, but first, here are some hometown temps.
Keeping track of the shifting market prices has never been so easy. Get the latest commodity prices sent directly to your cell phone with market updates. Just text MARKETS8 to 31313 to get started.
New research may someday unlock the true potential of the world's food plants. Researchers at the University of Illinois have figured out how to hack photosynthesis and in some cases make the plants 40% more productive. For plants to convert sunlight into energy, it needs a protein called rubisco. Now, rubisco is meant to do that with carbon dioxide and water, but about 20% of the time it grabs oxygen. The plant then has to get rid of that excess. The scientists engineered a way around that natural glitch, and they say the end result may someday feed an additional 200 million people. Currently, the team is working to boost yields of soybeans, cowpea, rice, potato, tomato, and eggplant, but it's likely to take more than a decade for this technology to be translated into food crops and then win regulatory approvals. When we come back, look back at lessons from 2018 and preparing for marketing in the new year, our Monday Marketing Roundtable after the break. And later, it's not Mardi Gras season yet, but Louisiana crawfish farmers are already rolling with harvest.
AgDay, brought to you by Prosaro Fungicide from Bayer.
In agribusiness, the CME releasing trade numbers from 2018. It says average daily volumes hit a record 19.2 million contracts last year. That's up nearly 20% from 2017. Agricultural volume, however, fell by 5% in December, averaging 1 million contracts per day. Commodity markets finishing the week strong with plenty of green on the board during the session Friday. Let's see how things closed from our friends on the floor.
And let's talk about the grains and what we've got in front of us here. You know, we can wave the banner and get excited about a big W today. Everything's higher across the board. And guess what? Looking out into my little crystal ball, I wish if I had one, I wouldn't tell anybody about it, but I think that we have to worry about what's your risk going to be going forward as far as corn, wheat, and beans, having seen what the tariff tantrum's done to it, having seen what the stronger dollar has done to those contracts. These are the things that we're going to have to keep in mind, as well as, and this is going to be the real hard part, we're going to be in a much more volatile environment because the Fed is trying to normalize interest rates, and that's got the equities all askew. That's it for me. I'm Scott Schulte on the CME Group floors.
Here at the Agribusiness Desk today, we've got Brian Doherty with Stuart Peterson and Jim McCormick with Allendale. Thank you both for being here. All right. Last week, first week of the new year, we can either talk about what you learned last week or what did we learn in 2018. Jim, we'll start with you.
I'm going to go with what we learned in 2018. What I'm going to say in 2018 is volatility is back, especially that last quarter in the equity markets. I think that's going to lead to some volatile trade into the commodity markets coming into 2019. A lot of money is looking for a place to go. The stock market really took a beating that last quarter, and I think you'll see some investments coming back in, and hopefully agriculture is one of it. You look at the price of corn domestically, worldwide, compared to the stocks by historical numbers, corn's relatively valued, I believe, and hopefully it will bring some money into our markets here.
Okay. Brian, what'd you learn?
I agree with everything Jim said. Also learned this, though, and that is good markets or decent prices can quickly disappear.
Sure.
So as we look ahead at 2019, if we get some rallies out of the market, make sure as a producer that you've got yourself well positioned, you're strategic. It's like trying to catch a falling knife. I mean, these markets drop so hard, so fast that if you don't catch them in an area, you miss it, and then you're waiting and waiting and waiting. So be attentive, set target points, cover those with call options, be strategic.
Yeah, being strategic 2019, and he talked a little bit about what to look forward to. Anything else you're watching as we get into this month and the next week or two?
Well, right now, I think we'll be watching to see news coming out of hopefully this government shutdown. We'll start getting some news data flowing back. We're a little bit starved for data right now. We got, there's up in the air if we're going to have this reports coming in or what could happen. So, keep an eye, because one thing about this president, he likes to drop it by tweet. So we could get a game changer, and as Brian said, be prepared. Come up with a game plan now, because I think you'll have some opportunity, but it may be there for just moments, brief moments. So you want to be prepared for it. Plain and simple.
Anything else you're watching as we go through this month?
Well, I'm going to stick with my long-term bias. The glass is definitely half full in the corn market, so be patient. You'll get those opportunities, but be well balanced. That is, cover those cash sales, but cash is king. Make good cash sales, but have them covered.
All right, so much to keep an eye on as we begin a new year. Thank you both for being here, helping us kick off. We'll be back with more Ag Day in just a minute.
To talk to Jim McCormick one-on-one, contact Allendale Incorporated at 815-578-6166 or email Jim at jmccormick@allendale-inc.com. To talk with Brian one-on-one, call Advanced Trading at 800-664-2314 or head online to advanced-trading.com.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman here, looking at rainfall over the last week, and really it's just the eastern half of the country getting all that precipitation.
Yeah, it seems like the same areas just keep getting it, so these areas are definitely on the wet side. And there was a few areas in the Pacific Northwest also ended up pretty wet, as you can see, but a good chunk of the country did not get much, if any, precipitation over the last week. This goes from a week ago Saturday through this past Friday, and you can see the amounts 1 to 2 inches in most areas, some areas 3 in a large area from St. Louis down to Houston over toward New Orleans into the Florida Panhandle up into parts of Georgia. So you can see it's definitely not everybody got a bunch of rain in this area, but there were definitely large areas that did. Now here's the jet stream. We're starting to see some changes in this pattern that we have been holding on to now for 5 weeks or so, going on 6. And you can see we're getting a trough. That's going to bring a decent shot of cold air to the Great Lakes into the Northeast for Wednesday and Thursday of this week, and then another shot as we head into next weekend. It still shows another ridge building up in Montana, North Dakota area, but I think we're trending toward the pattern that we really thought would be here most of the winter. But we ended up with this 5-6 week period of milder weather in the eastern part of the country, and that would be the trough in the east and the ridge out west. I think we're going to that, but it's going to be a couple of weeks here to get into it. Unfortunately, I really still believe it'll be a brutal part of late January and February, but we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully I'm kind of wrong on that one. Temperatures this week, though, we are going to go below normal for much of central western Canada and the far northern portions of the plains. This will be kind of later in the week or mid to late week when you'll get that colder air. Above normal for averages over the northeast, parts of the Ohio Valley, central Mississippi Valley, and into much of the southwest. But you will get a shot of colder air for the second half of the week, but it's going to be pretty far above for the first half, and below normal for the southeastern portions of the country. As far as precipitation for this coming week, We have one system kind of exiting from the Great Lakes into the Northeast. We'll go above normal there, above normal west coast, down into southern Texas, below normal southeast, and from northern Missouri northward, below normal as well. The 30-day outlook for temperatures will go below normal from Texas to the Great Lakes into Georgia and the Carolinas, above normal from North Dakota back through the west, and 30-day outlook for precipitation above normal Louisiana into the mid-Atlantic, below normal northern plains, back into the Pacific Northwest. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. Heading to Provo, Utah, first of all, cloudy with some snow and rain. Not a lot, though, high of 39. Decatur, Alabama, partly sunny, maybe an afternoon shower, high of 62. And finally, Syracuse, New York, cloudy and colder, afternoon flurries possible, high of 30.
All right, we'll talk crawfish harvest in Louisiana coming up, but first...
Hey, stay tuned, folks. Coming up, we're going to talk rising buyer demand on used gravity wagons and grain carts.
Harvest may be over, but the challenges with logistics are still pretty top of mind. That may be behind recent search traffic on machineryp.com. Here's Greg.
All right, folks, today we're going to talk grain handling equipment. Now, on a daily basis, it's not just auction price data here that I analyze, it's also search traffic data. And if we look at grain handling equipment, search traffic up 19.7% in the fourth quarter, and versus a year ago, up 33.1%. Now, does that jive with what we're seeing on the auction market? Well, in this case, it's a spot-on match. Now, of course, what's underlying the factor here is the steel tariffs that kicked in mid-2018, with the effect of rising the price on new augers, gravity wagons, grain carts about 10%. Now, anytime the price of new goes up, of course, it makes finding and acquiring the best condition used more attractive. So, started to see things like a September 14th farm auction in northeast South Dakota, where this 2014 Westfield 125-foot auger sold for $50,000, highest auction price ever on an auger. Now from there, we could bounce over to Central Ohio, farm auction November 26th, where a pair of J&M 385 gravity wagons sold for $9,000 each. Nice sole choice, buyer took both, and of course, that's always a sign of a hot market right there. And $9,000, highest auction price on a 385 wagon since February of 14. And we could close out the year going over to northeast Kansas, farm auction December 28th, where this 2017 Kinsey 1100 grain cart on tracks sold for $87,000, and again, record high auction price right there.
Good stuff. Thanks, Greg. When we come back, crawfish farmers in Louisiana are in search of a premium price. We'll have details next.
In the Country, sponsored by Kubota. Tractors, hay tools, utility vehicles, mowers, and more. Visit KubotaUSA.com today.
While the peak of crawfish season is a few months away, crawfish producers in Louisiana have started their season. Most producers will start fishing here after the first of the year, but some are taking advantage of those higher prices consumers are willing to pay to get their hands on them early. LSU Ag Center reporter Craig Gautreaux has a story.
Crawfish are a popular menu item during the Lenten season, but in reality, the crawfish season has already started. This time of year, crawfish farmers can fetch a premium price for their product because of the tight supply.
Probably after the first of the year, more farmers will be fishing, the volume of the catch will come up, the price will start to moderate a little bit more.
A key to a successful crawfish season is a wet late summer and early fall when crawfish are submerged in their burrows with their young. A drought at this time can lead to poor survival and low reproduction.
August, September, October we had plenty of rain, which is actually good for crawfish. So we had fairly good recruitment. So there's a lot of small quarter-inch, half-inch, 1.5-inch crawfish in the fields right now.
Producers should be aware of a virus called white spot. The virus targets larger crawfish and can decimate an entire pond. Last year, an outbreak of white spot destroyed some ponds in southwest Louisiana.
It affected maybe 10 to 20,000 acres out of the whole state last year. In the whole state, we have somewhere around 240,000 acres of crawfish production.
Shirley says white spot only affects crustaceans and poses no threat to humans. Crawfish acreage has been trending up, and producers have increased management efforts to enhance their catch.
Really good management of crawfish ponds. They typically are somewhere 600, 700, 800 pounds per acre. Okay, a few guys make even more than that.
In cold water, cutfish is the preferred bait. When the water warms during spring, producers will switch to a manufactured bait. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gocho reporting.
And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in and spent part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great week out in farm country.